Demetrious Johnson, Ray Borg, it didn't start, he submitted him, the 5th round, 3 minutes left. Those first 4, it was just a straight beatdown. Mighty Mouse is so much better than everyone. He's so much better. Ray Borg's bigger. He's an amazing grappler. I told you guys, Ray Borg's an amazing grappler. But when you're an amazing grappler, that's not good enough to get it done against the best of all time grappler in the flyweight division. It's just not. When both guys are at a high level, if one guy's the best of all time and one guy's just great at it, Demetrious Johnson can beat you every time. I thought Ray Borg came to fight. He looked good. His game plan, I don't know how you can beat Demetrious Johnson if you're a flyweight. He's so much better than everyone. It's not even close. So then you go into the pound for pound talk. Well, let's just talk about a submission. First of all, that submission that he did was amazing. Amazing. And I get some flack when I went, greatest submission of all time in the UFC. And you go, whoa, better than Frank Mir, Nogueira, better than the Korean Zombies Twister against Leonard Garcia. Now so if you want to just use those for example. So Korean Zombie against Leonard Garcia. That was not for a title fight. There was no pressure in that fight. It's Leonard Garcia. He might be a purple belt. I think a purple belt. It's also just another fight. There's no pressure there. There's nothing hanging over looming your head when you go for a twister against Leonard Garcia. Cool to see, but it's just not the same. It's also the talent level's not the same. It's also not to break the all-time record for most title defense of all time. Not only do you do it against a guy, Ray Borg, who's known as a grappler. And for him to do it that way, with that kind of out of nowhere in the 5th round, that's why to me it's the best submission of all time, because the repercussions, what was at stake, just everything that went into it. The fight was canceled before, then they're here. They went through 2 camps. He got all this flack from Dana White. He got all this flack for not taking the TJ fight. And is he going to break the record? Okay, here comes another boring small man decision. Here we go. Wrong. Boom. And that submission, I'm going to give Leister Bowling a shout out now, who he used to be the head coach at Muscle Farm. He was my head coach for many years when I fought in the UFC. He was a coach at University of Northern Colorado. He showed Amal Easton, myself, Elliot Marshall, and Nate Marquardt, I think, and Shane Carwin, that exact that exact submission from there to the armbar, where you pick him up to the armbar. I want to say 10 years ago, and we laughed at him. Yeah, we laughed at him. And we're like, no one's going to pull that off in a real fight. I think he was showing that against, we're getting ready for someone. We're like, what are you doing? Who the fuck's going to do that? And then Demetrious Johnson did. Right when that happened, I went, oh, I've seen that once, because I was watching with Todd Feldman, my brother, and my agent, and he goes, have you ever seen something like that? I went, I have. My coach a long time ago, Leister Bowling, used to talk about it all the time. He was in the jiu-jitsu guy, just wrestling. He's like, dude, I'm telling you, get him there. They go there. Like, yeah, all right, cool. What else you got? But that's why it's the best submission. Now, as far as pound for pound with Demetrious Johnson, he's pound for pound. If you can bring up a pound for pound list for me, Chin. So he's pound for pound for these reasons. Usually when you talk about pound for pound, especially in today's game, it go in any order you want to put in. But let's just list the guys. So you got Anderson Silva, John Jones, Mighty Mouse. Usually those 3, and George St. Pierre, right? So
let me do current.
Oh, you did all the time. You have to do. Yeah, let's do ESPN. That's a legit source. Okay, so scroll or go up for me. I think they have the keep going, or does it not have the list there?
No.
All right,
so we'll just go through the list.
So this is ESPN's list. Let's go. So scroll up for me. So they go, and before you go through this list, I'm just going to go from the top of my head in any order you want to put them in. But this is usually somewhere in the argument. John Jones, Anderson Silva, Demetrious Johnson, Conor McGregor, Daniel Cormier, Stipe. I'm just going off the top of my head. Now let's look at ESPN's thing, and then I'll tell you why Demetrious number 1. So they still have John Jones number 1. Obviously, it's still, the verdict is still out on that. Okay. Then you have Demetrious Johnson number 2. Okay, you have Conor McGregor. They haven't updated this because they don't have Demetrious win on there yet. They have Conor McGregor number 3, TJ Dillashaw number 4. That's interesting. How old is this? Because how can TJ Dillashaw be number 4 when he
Let me look for a different list.
His last fight? But that's weird. It's pretty. That one's pretty current, man. Go to Sherdog pound for pound. You see it? Go down. And they've been around for fucking ever. They should have their stuff together.
There's an Odd Shark.
Go to Sherdog. Those guys know what they're talking about usually.
And this is from January, though. Let me check out this one real quick.
It doesn't matter. I mean, when you're checking out, I'll go through them. So, okay. So either way, it's DJ, John Jones, Connor, and Anderson Silva. Usually, and then you got DC, those guys floating around there. So John Jones is out. John Jones is out because of his outside the cage antics, PD assumptions, and we're still waiting for the verdict on that. So right now he's out. Mm-hmm. But if you take all those out of the cage, out of the ring kind of extracurricular activities and PD accusations, he's number 1. There's no argument. He's number 1 by far with his body of work. The guys he's beat, the way he's beat them, the lack of training he did to beat them would prove he's pound for pound the best. Like, how crazy would it be if you found out Demetrious Johnson trained 2 weeks and did this 3 board? No, we know Demetrious Johnson's working his ass off. John Jones, I mean, there's some fights he barely trained and still beat the shit breaks off people. So John Jones is number 1, but he's out. Mm-hmm. So take him out of the equation. All right, who's left? You want to say Anderson Silva's the best of all time, pound for pound, greatest fighter of all time? No, he tested hot. You're out. You're out. If you've ever tested hot, you're out of the pound for pound conversation because we don't know what you were like without him. We don't know. One thing we do know is DJ has never failed a test, has never done any of that, and he's so much better than the competition. He's just smoking everyone. If DJ's next fight, I don't know who it is. I don't want to see him fight anyone in the flyweight division. That does nothing for me, and that's what hurts him. And it's not his fault. But those guys are crazy talented. Usually those guys, 125 pounds, they have more skills and more talent than any other weight classes. The smaller they are, the more talent there is. But they're just not well-known names. So people go, oh, look at the competition. It's not really fair to say. You can say, let's look at the competition because you don't know who they are or you're not educated on the flyweight division. They're tough guys. They definitely should be there, and they've earned their way to be there. Henry Cejudo might be a different argument. He only had 6 fights when he fought him, but still, that's not Demetrious Johnson's fault, and he's finishing those guys. And that's why until John Jones did his stuff and Anderson Silva did his stuff, I never had Demetrious Johnson number 1. I haven't. The reason he's number 1 is by default because these other 2 guys are morons. That's the only reason. I still stick by Demetrious Johnson as a 125-pound male fighter in the UFC. Doesn't have the same risk, doesn't have the same repercussions as the heavier weight classes. So when Demetrious Johnson goes in there, if he gets punched in the face, he's going to learn from it, adapt. That won't happen again, probably take him down. If Stipe goes in there and gets punched in the face by Overeem, Verdum, Mark Hunt, Francis Gano, the list goes on and on of these monsters, the night's over. So his margin of error is so much smaller. So the heavier the weight class, if they're more dominant, no matter what their resume looks like as far as who they fought, if they're heavier and they're dominant, I'm always going to rank them above the lighter weight class because of the risk and reward there. It's a different game. It's a completely different game. So for Demetrious Johnson, he's my number 1. I stick by it with the smaller guys. This just the repercussions aren't the same. They're just not. So I think that's why they're not a draw. I think that's why people don't know the flyweight division as well as the other divisions. There's just but for Demetrious Johnson, he could stay at flyweight, and if he wants to, I don't know what he's planning to do. I don't think he's talked about it. I think he said in his post-fight interview he just wants to go get some rest and take a break, which he's missed another opportunity to market himself. But You know, he's the greatest champion of all time, so he can do what the hell he wants to do. But, you know, if I'm Demetrious, I start thinking about setting myself up in my family up because then he has 3 kids, 2 or maybe 1 on the way. I forget, but he has a family. I would start because he's not set. He's the most dominant champion of all time. He's not set financially. He's not making Scrooge McDuck money. He's not making fuck you money. He's not making Conor McGregor money or, you know, even Tony Ferguson money. So, or Stipe money or Max Holloway money or John Jones money or DC money or Bisping money, Cody Garbrandt. He's not making the money those guys are making, and he's the greatest champion of all time. But they based a lot of that off what kind of demands there. That's just business. And so if I'm Mighty Mouse and I want to make that fuck you money, you're going to have to create some sort of hype around TJ versus Cody Garbrandt. And, you know, he's fought at that weight class before at 135. Those guys are big, man. Those guys are big. I wouldn't mind if they do the fight at 130 and they come down there. I'm sure at a catch weight. I wouldn't count DJ out against either of those guys. I think it's a great fight, but he's gonna have to do something like that. He just is. He just is to get that big payday. It's unfortunate, but that's the world we live in.